This is But the Years Are Short, the podcast where mamas who are therapists share real advice for real families. I'm Meagan.
And I'm Katie, and we want to be your front porch community where you can laugh and learn with us about the beautiful, messy, overwhelming, hilarious work of raising kids.
Because the days are long,
but the years are short.
Welcome. Yay. Yay. All right. Welcome back. So today we're still on the kind of restart kick. And I know January is full of the idea of like restart, reset. And we've talked about it in a lot of ways. But today, Katie, we're going to talk about it a little bit differently.
Yeah. Okay. So because there are lots of restarts, right? So all throughout the year in our lives, really. So if you think about it, we have to restart when we come back from summer break, when our teams restart, right? When our kids' teams restart after a season break, after like family travel, or when we're getting back to school, starting back in with like friendship after a conflict, all kinds of things.
Yeah. I think we really want to focus on the idea that like restarts are very typical. And they can be hard for kiddos and adults.
Oh my gosh.
And so today we're really going to dive into why are research challenging, what our kids need emotionally, and then practical things adults can do to support re-engaging in all of these things.
So good. So good.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just start off right at the bat. Why do you think restarts can be so hard?
Because I think that when we are restarting things, it's like we have to rework a ton of stuff, like there has been a loss of routine and predictability. I think, restarting things is stressful. It's like whatever we're doing is kind of unknown.
I think so too. I think there's also a piece, it's so funny. My kiddos, we kind of like changed our world in a lot of ways this past year. And like we had a family that we were best friends with, and we used to see them literally 2 to 3 days a week and like spending significant time with them. And then just because of their schedule and our schedule, we haven't seen them in a really long time. And so like over break, my little one, we were going to go over and hang out with them. And it's probably been 6 months. And so my little one, like we're cuddling on the couch, getting ready for bed. And he's 10, so he's not that little. But he looks at me and he goes, do you think my friend will still like me? Do you think he'll still be my friend? Right? And there's this fear of like just the unknown, right? And the fear of being judged. And I think the other thing for our kids, and we especially talk about like friendships, whether it be starting school again after summer break or not seeing a friend for a long time.
Yeah.
Kids recognize that they've changed in some ways, right? And so then the fear of like, has my friend changed? Has this changed? Are we going to be friends again? That can feel really big for our kids.
That's so true. That's so true. You think about like kids starting back in school and like navigating all of the friendships and who's gonna like, are my friends still gonna be my friends, and are the people who like they were frenemies last year, are they gonna be frenemies again? And how's all that gonna work? It's like a whole thing. It's so stressful. So,
and I think like those are like big restarts, right? But I also think about when we think about restarting of when there's been a conflict, right? And so like having a conflict with a friend or even in the house, that can bring a lot of stress. And I think the same idea of like, are they going to forgive me? Are they still mad at me? All those like thoughts and questions run through our kiddos' heads, ours, when we like re-engage in those things.
Yeah. It's really true. There's a lot of stress in there. There's a lot of stress in there. Yeah.
And so what we kind of want to help do is like, how do we help support our kid? What do we know about stress when we talk about those restarts? How do we help support our kids moving through those? So Katie, like when you think about like the brain science of the stress, what are the things that you tell parents when we talk about like prepping our kids for that and being aware of those things?
Okay. So, and I'll tell you, it's not just parents that I tell this to, but I work with a lot of people who kind of the bread and butter of my work, right, is working with people who are in acute stress and in some of the highest stress situations of their entire lives. And so one of the pieces of education that I give them is that when you are flooded with stress, the way that the brain works is that it is trying to assist you in getting you to safety. And
Yeah.
so what it does is it takes the energy that is usually in the part of your brain that does the long-term planning, problem solving, the executive functioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of that analytical thinking, and resources it elsewhere. So when you are super flooded with stress, you literally lose access to the executive functioning portion of your brain.
Yeah.
And so it makes it very hard to stay really beautifully engaged with the harder things. So if we think about like really good relational work, or, the things that are required at school,
Yeah.
like long-term
Following
focus,
directions.
following directions, sitting still,
Mm-hmm.
paying attention for long periods of time, writing things down in your planner, following through with them. Because if you are in this state of stress, your brain is literally keeping you ready to run, or hide,
Mm-hmm.
or
Or
fight.
fight. Yeah.
Yeah, or fight, which looks like being agitated. So if we're in that like really heightened state, kids can look agitated or irritable, or if they're kind of in this like hide state, that
Mm-hmm.
looks like being shut down or very quiet, or like a freeze kind of space. What would you add
Yeah.
to that? This is really kind of with kids, right? This is kind of
Yeah.
where you spend a lot of time.
Yeah, so I teach kids the same thing. The words that we use is my thinking brain and my surviving brain is
Hmm.
when we talk to kids about it. And I think the thing that I tell kids and parents, all those things, but the thing I tell kids and parents is like, it's not a bad thing to have these moments.
Hmm.
Like we all have these moments, right? And so it's not that we're trying to cultivate a world where we don't have this level of stress, right? We're trying to figure out, how do we see it? How do we understand it, and how do we move through it, right? Because I think a lot of times when we talk about the new beginnings, we do see this stress or this anxiety from our kids. And part of it is not, I think our job as parents is not to rescue our kids from it, because they're going to have to start the school. They're going to be on the team. We know that they're going to be okay. They have
Hmm.
the things they need, but we have to recognize like it is going to be hard. And so our job as parents is to help them hold that hard, right? To help
Hmm.
hold that uncomfortable feeling, to help hold that stress and help to recognize it. And I think that is, for us as parents, is can be a really challenging thing when our kids do have really big feelings.
Yeah, yeah,
What would you add
absolutely.
to that, Katie?
I think like when my kids have really big feelings about something, it is really hard for me to stay calm sometimes,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think when my kids have really big feelings that are distressing, right?
Okay.
Like when they are
Hmm.
distressed, then it's hard for me not to be distressed. So it's like it's like always a growth moment, right? Like
Yeah.
if my kids feel super stressed about a test coming up, or a project that they're having a hard time finishing, or a friendship that has
Hmm.
been very stressful, or something like that, the desire to remove that pain from them is enormous. It's
Yeah.
enormous.
It is. We all want to just fix it for them, right?
And we are parenting people. Like that's what we do for a living. And we
Yeah.
know that our job is not to fix it, and that it actually is like a little long term, it's the opposite of helpful.
It is. Yeah.
And so what we're trying not to say is that it can be harmful.
Yeah. That's true.
To solve all your kids'
To
problems,
solve all their
it
problems,
is harmful.
to remove that
And
stress.
yes, because it is beneficial for your kids to learn how to navigate the stress, to learn how to problem solve, to do all of those things. And so, but man, when you're in the midst of it, oh, buddy, it is hard to just like be with them, support them, and let them navigate it. That is so hard. It's like physically hard on my body sometimes. It gives me a stomach
Okay.
ache
So
sometimes.
Yeah, let's start there then. When we think about how do we prep ourselves, right, for into
Mm.
supporting our kids through these restarts that we know come with a lot of stress and anxiety. What are some of the things that you do or that you tapes you play for yourself that kind of help you move into that space?
Like the space of letting them work through it.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I do. I like, let's say it's about a friend. I think my go-to has been in the last maybe 8 months. And I'll tell you, this came from feedback from my daughter that I was being too much of a therapist. And so this is real life, right?
We hear that. I hear that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. So here's what I do, right? So I'll hear from her like, so and so said this about me, or they said this as I was walking up, and it really hurt my feelings. And those are not the words that are used, but I'm paraphrasing.
Their kid version, yeah.
Right, it's a kid version, right? And it's something like, can you believe that they said that and that's not true? And you can tell it's really hurting them. And so I will say, wow, how are you feeling about that? And then I wait. And this is because my kids are 13 and 12, right? And so I wait to get this is how I'm feeling about it. And usually it's like, well, it just sucks because. And I'll say something like, that does suck. My goodness. What do you think you'll do about that? Right. And so I'm just giving them space to work through it and being present. And so if I'm getting to the tape that I play about it for myself internally is I want to be present for this, because if I try to solve it, it pushes them away.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Because
That can be really true.
Because they've told me that.
It's helpful.
I mean, it took them actually telling me, and a couple of times, frankly. I mean, I think, and this is like, it's a human moment, right? Because
totally, yeah.
I mean, there's a thing that I want, that's important for people to hear is like, you can have a whole degree in this and still have moments that we don't do it beautifully.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can love your kids so much that you can over guide, you can over teach, you can over correct, So on the flip side, here's what I was doing before for comparison. So it would be something like, can you believe that so-and-so said whatever? And then I might say something like, I can tell you I said something like, gosh, well, they probably are having a really hard day. Or usually when
you're trying to teach empathy right away.
I am. Or usually when people behave like that, it's because they have something going on in their family that's really hard. Or because I know that the thing that was said is so outrageous, right?
Yes.
And like so far from true that that it's like not grounded in reality. And so I'm like trying to give my child some perspective about the world and the way that relationships function and families function. And in that moment, that's not what's freaking needed, right?
No, they can't hear that at all.
I can't hear it because she's hurting.
Yeah. She wants you to be seen, right? She wants to feel seen.
Oh my gosh. Yes, exactly. And so I was just missing it, And so she gave me exactly what I needed, which was, you are being too much of a therapist. I need you to be a mom. Oh, we started this conversation about like why restarts are hard for kids. And where we landed was like, how do we let our kids have difficult moments and manage ourselves in the process?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think the answer on my end is it's helpful for me to not get in the way by over teaching.
Yes. Yeah. I think that is super helpful. I think for me, I obviously do not do it beautifully all the time. I'm pretty sure none of us do. But my intention and my hope and the thing I play in my head is this too shall pass. It's like whatever this huge hurt is, whatever this huge worry, it will pass. And what tools does my kid need in this moment? And so I think that for me, it looks like a question I often ask my kids, like, do you just need me to listen? Do you need my help, or do you need me to do something? And so like those are when they come to me, or when we're moving too, right? Like, so like starting a new school. Like that's a big restart. Like there's a lot of anxiety around in that. And I think one of the big things is those are the tools I hold. Is like this too will pass. My kid will settle into whatever this is, right? So that I'm holding that tape true for me to help manage my own anxiety. And then the tool of like, what do you need from me here? Because I can't do it all, right? And I got to trust my kid. I got to trust that they know to do what they need, right?
Mhm.
And they're not going to do it beautifully. But I think like understanding that for parents is like, how do we hold that true for ourselves? How do we help navigate our own expectations? How do we help support our kiddos in growth is important. And I think that's a big piece of why restarts are hard for us as parents, right? We have to see our kids be anxious or be stressed or be agitated by it. And that, like we said, all of us want our kids to be happy, healthy, wonderful humans and want the world to be great.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah. So I think that is a piece. So I think, okay, so then we kind of said like, how do we hold ourselves, right? But then what are the things that we do for our kids in this research to prep them, right? We recognize there is the anxiety. We got to help them move in it. But what are some of the things that we do before it or during it to help our kids? What do you think, Katie?
Yeah, so I think the more that we can look ahead, I mean, I say the more. I think looking ahead is helpful.
Yeah.
I think when we know that a transition is coming, it's important for us to be thoughtful about it. Right. So we've talked a number of times about if you have a big shift coming that's going to impact bedtimes and sleep, like be thoughtful about that ahead of time. I think before the restart happens, start talking about it. What might it look like? Helping our kids visualize something is really important. So whether that looks like literally visualizing like, on a calendar or drawing something out for them.
Walking through the school. I mean,
Yeah.
all the things, right, that we can do when it can happen.
Yeah.
Talking through the fight. What would you want to say to your friend? What do you think they'll say back? Like all of those pieces of visualizing are really helpful for our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it helps things be predictable and more clear, right? So that they're not going in with everything feeling completely overwhelming and frightening. And so again, right, we're pulling them out of that like fight or flight and making it where things feel clearer because they have more access to that executive functioning part of the brain. I think like language that helps, right? So is really validating, right? So this is hard, right? So just acknowledging this is hard. We don't have to figure this out today is one of my favorites.
That gives so much permission. And I feel like
I know.
that can really, I use that one a lot today is like with my kids. And I think that, I'm gonna be super honest though, depending on the kid, right? I have two that love that phrase, right? And it does bring that, like, just helps calm down. The other one, in the beginning, it was really hard for her because she does have a lot of anxiety. But then the more we practice it and practice like stepping away, it really, it does help. And so I do think that's a really great one for our kids.
Yeah. The way that it sounds in my house is, this is not a today problem.
Yes.
And both of my kids say it. This is not a today problem.
I love that.
So what doesn't help? Okay, so let's talk about what doesn't help when we're looking at restarts. Rushing, right? So I think we talked about like planning ahead keeps us from rushing. Okay, which rushing sends us into fight or flight. That's when I like chronically, famously forget things. It is 1,000 times worse when I'm rushing. I will forget all the things. Shaming, which sounds like, why can't you? Why don't you just?
Yeah.
Right? Those are
or
not
you
helpful.
should have.
Yeah.
If you'd only.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And comparing to other people, right? Well, they can remember there. Well, they're getting A's. Well, right? Things like that. Okay. So just that like giving compassion, which as a gentle reminder, we can only do if we are compassionate to ourselves. So if you're saying things to yourself like, well, they get to the gym every day, how come you can't? Right? Then the more that you can give yourself compassion, the more compassion you have for other people, which I learned when I was 20 years old in a yoga class. Like yoga teacher said that out loud and I cried on my yoga mat. It's the first time I'd ever heard it.
Hard.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. That was very
That is
funny.
funny. Okay, so then I think it's helpful to is like how do we help break these things down for our kids and what are the
Mm,
pieces that work? So we've talked about some of them, right? We talked about like creating a visual calendar, talking through or visualizing the piece for sure. We talked about asking open-ended questions, right? And so like how does that make you feel? Like those are the pieces. Naming our kids' emotions, helping them see them. I think those are all super helpful. I think another thing that can be helpful when we talk about restarts, when we have lots of anxiety or stress around it, is breaking it down to smaller pieces. And so, kind of with the like, this is not a today thing, is the other
mm,
question I'll say to my kids is like, what is one thing we can do now? Right. Because I think a lot of times we think of whether it be for example, kiddo had a fight with a friend, right? And so they were playing it through. We were practicing. Okay, so what are the thing? What do we want them to know? And then they were like, "We just had to drive over to their house right now." It was 9:30 on a Tuesday night. I
yep.
am not driving to anybody's house. Like I think I've said
Right.
before, I'm offline at 9 p.m. My brain barely works. And so like I'm not driving. So the thing was, okay, what is something you can do now? That
Yeah.
is like a first step that you could do now, right? And so we talked through and right. So it's okay, I'm gonna set up when can we meet up. And so that was the first thing they could do now.
Oh, that's
And I
good.
think yeah, and I think, but like that's a good thing we can do, whether it be like because I literally am not going to drive you to that, or because it's so big, right? So, like starting a new school and a new school year at a new school, like you have a new schedule, you have supplies, you have like all the things. What is one thing you can do now? The first thing
Yeah.
that's doable, right? And so I think
I
helping to
love
break
that.
those things down can be really, really helpful too for our
Yep.
kids and our pieces.
Yep. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Plus, I think
What would you add to that?
they're just building their executive functioning, right? Which we
Yes.
know includes planning. And so
Yeah, that's a great point.
they do not have the ability yet to break giant things into small steps. Like that's a
Mhm.
skill they're building, not because they're dumb,
Yeah.
but because they don't have it yet. And so that's a
Oh,
thing you can help with.
100%. Yeah. That's a great point too.
And so it's teaching, right? Like it's helping
Mhm.
them learn how to do that. And so that can be really helpful. So if we're thinking about, a school, like a big school project that they need to do at home, like think science fair, right? Or
Mhm.
if they're wanting to learn how to, or, if you have a kid who wants to run a 5K, or if you have a kid who wants to learn how to play an instrument, right? Whatever the thing is. And I will tell
Mhm.
you, I have employed Chat GPT for this like nobody's business. So
You're
I
a
have a kid.
fan.
I am a huge fan. Megan knows this. So every time she asks me a question, I'm like, let's ask ChatGPT. So I have a kiddo who's really motivated to get into a really good college, and she's in 8th grade. And so we have a whole strategy that we're working through. But we needed the help to break it up into bite-sized pieces that are like a month
Yeah.
by month from now until the end of junior year. And that was really helpful for her because it took an overwhelming thing and broke it into small pieces. Anyway,
No, yeah.
okay.
But I
Yeah.
think that's so helpful, right? And I think that's one thing
Mhm.
that sometimes we forget as parents as we get into the piece, right? Of like one of the biggest ways we can help our kids with restarts or big anxiety or the thing is like how do we break it down for them to manageable pieces that
Yep.
they are going to do by
Yeah. Oh,
themselves,
yeah.
for themselves.
So good.
I
So
think it's
good.
super helpful and
You
important.
know what I think? I think like even the whole like get ready for school, that's a
Yeah.
project,
Oh my
right? Like
gosh.
if we
Yes.
think about it, So, and it's a restart that first day back. And so if you think about
Mhm.
like ways that will work for your family to restart getting ready for school because they've been out of the habit for 2.5 weeks likely.
Oh, at least, right?
Yeah. And so start thinking about it in advance. Like, how does this look? Do we need to put the tasks on the mirror with a like whiteboard marker?
Expo marker.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Do we need to put sticky notes on the fridge and then every time they get done with one, the sticky note goes in the trash? My
Oh,
recycling
I like
friends
that
are
one.
going to kill me for waste of paper. But do you know what I'm saying? Like something
Mhm.
that helps them get through the tasks without wandering around forgetting what they're supposed to be doing, which is
Yeah.
absolutely what my children do.
All the time.
So, and the patience, right? So that it doesn't sound like you're not doing a sticky note, but it sounds, it
Yes.
sounds, It sounds more like, hey, where are you on your checklist?
Yeah, I love to resource things to the list or the board
Yeah.
because then it's not a fight with me. It's this is on the board. This is how we do things. This is what we do. And it helps to take, for me, it helps take the emotion out of it. So I think those are really great
Mm,
tips for
yeah.
us as we to think about some of these restarts or redos
Yeah.
for sure. So I know that we've talked a lot about like not giant, but like big restarts of school or sports or fights for relationships for kids. But I do think those are really important. I think when we take a step back and we think about the number of restarts we're going to have, our kids are going to have, and we're going to have is actually a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think it's one, normalizing them. It's two, giving the skills and tools through them to be helpful for sure. But I think about like, I'm going to tell a giant one, but like my kids started brand new schools this year.
Yeah.
And they all did. And so it was a giant restart for our family because we went from just so many things, right? So it's like they were going to a charter school. So we were doing the driving piece and then they're really small classes. And so it was just like all this like very small things to going to a giant public school where we're going to ride the bus, right? Where we're going to change classes for my middle schoolers. And be part of new teams. And so I think it was a giant restart for them that actually came with a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
And so I think like when we talk about like how do we help our kids in that, like for me, it was one I told myself, like did the things I said earlier, but I also told myself like they are going to have a hard time in some ways, right? They're going to be more emotional in some ways. And so like prepping myself for that of being like, okay, we're going to have to do this. I need a lot more patience. I did extra Meagan care things in that time to have a lot of patience. And so the one thing we didn't talk that I did a lot in that time we didn't talk about is like I leaned on my people big time in there,
Yeah.
right? So like when I came into the office probably twice a week during those couple of weeks, just cried on Katie's couch. Just because it was hard, right? But I did all the Meagan things, but then also being like super patient with my kiddos and leaving lots of space for the conversations. And so I would say like that was really helpful and hard. Like that was a hard season for our family. It's turned out great. They're all doing great, but it was just hard to be in that and know that it's hard to make new friends, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to learn how to engage in those things. It's hard to be the new kid and giving my kids lots of space in that, giving them lots of reflections. That week, I probably did not enforce bedtime as hard as normal if they wanted to talk about it, right? And so I was like being willing to give a little bit because our kids are going to struggle, and struggle doesn't mean failure, right? And so I get to say those things. I get to acknowledge the pieces that they're doing, and then they're being brave to try new things and be in hard places. I think all of those pieces give our kids hope, right? And so I just think starting that new school year, that was hard. Like we're in a place where we're starting a new thing, one of my youngest ones, and he was like, I got this. I can do hard things, which is another family phrase we say all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think like the thing is, if we can support our kids, it doesn't mean perfectly, but then they get practice, right? They practice that. And so then it goes on to the next time. It's going to be different, but they know they can do it because they've done it and they've had the support through it. And I think that to me, Katie, is like anytime we can give our kids that practice and feeling successful in some ways, like that is huge. And that's such a gift.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think that's why we were so careful in dancing around that concept of like, it is harmful if you solve all your kids' problems, because then they don't have the experience of successfully navigating a challenging time and building that confidence around that, right? Like, it's so beneficial for them to build that confidence that, like, this is hard, but I can do it, right? Like,
Yeah. That's so true.
as adults, what a gift when we know, like, this is hard, but I can do it.
It is. Yeah.
Like that resiliency factor that we're helping them build when they come up to a situation where they have to restart. It's going to be hard, but they know they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're there to support them in it. So.
For sure. Okay. So what are your takeaways from today?
Okay. So I think A couple of things. It's really, really important that we recognize our own discomfort with both our own pauses and restarts and when our kids have their pauses and restarts, and both after conflict and like in life when just normal like rhythm of the year. And then I think it's really important that we let go of our timelines and pressure, like our own personal timelines. It's enough that
Yeah.
we have to follow the world's. And then I think it's really pretty crucial for us to be thoughtful about how do I uh, prep well and patiently for my kiddo to be successful in this. How do I be compassionate? It's okay if it takes my kiddo a little bit longer to re-engage, and if that looks a little bit different, and to remember that progress may not look super linear, right? So we may have some great days, we may have some days that are more challenging, and it's all okay. It's all okay.
Yeah.
So anything you would add?
No, I think that is great. I think the piece of staying patient with my kid and myself and having some good tapes that I'm playing in my own head,
Yeah.
and is going to be super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Love it. So we're wishing you steadiness in the hard moments, hope in the uncertain ones, and confidence as you support your child through this next restart. We'll see you next time.
Our music is by Stephen Beddall. If you're loving these conversations, we'd be so grateful if you followed the podcast, left a review, or shared this episode with a friend. That's how we grow this little front porch community. And remember, the days are long,
but the years are short. While we often talk about mental health, this should not be used as a substitute for mental health treatment. If you or your child are struggling, please reach out to a local provider.